28. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light.
Thank you. Have a seat. Wonderful to praise God with one another. I want it back. Thank you. You can be seated. Thank you. I want to take you back 47 years ago, on a Monday. I'm going to Technische Universiteit Delft. I'm young, 18 years old. You can do the math. Is it 47? I don't know. Long time ago, beginning of the 1980s. I have a little car that I bought. I had to buy it from my opa. It was an old Fiat, and it took really a lot to fix it. He sold it like it was precious. It was his car. It's always been in the garage. When I started driving it, I thought, needs a lot of repair. And the rust was terrible. Anyway, that's not the point of the story. We went to the Universiteit in Delft, and public transport was not great for where I lived, so we actually had a route to pick up in total 3 other students, and together we paid the fuel, and we drove to the university. This Monday morning, it had been raining over the weekend. It was really bad, and that morning it was okay, but there's still traffic jams. I remember vividly that we were on the highway. All of a sudden, people stop. A sea of red light. My brakes were not that good. And I just see in slow motion, this is going wrong. And the car goes like this, and the guy in front of me, cars were really much more like that. He was a big Saab with those huge bumpers at the end. And I just dove into him. Bang. Near Den Haag, Prins Klausplein. And I really remember, but the car was dead, completely dead. And the guy was angry. He came out of the car, and he saw us with 4 young students. We didn't have a clue what to do. We were just like, what's going to happen? So we had to get towed off the road, etc. What happened in that moment, that you know what's going on, there's nothing you can do. You're going too fast. You've not been paying attention too much, and you're just going to, and you know you're going to crash. It's going to go wrong. And it's like, while you keep going, the momentum keep going, and your body, the car, needs to stop. And it didn't. I wasn't able to revive the car, so that was the end of that car. But it was a lesson. Keep your distance and don't go too fast. And like that, if you go a little bit too fast, it's exactly how we live our lives today. In many ways, we are racing at the moment. And this is why we are starting a new series, because we've noticed, and we've seen it in our own lives, that we are racing. And we're starting a new series, and we call it Rest for Your Soul, from busyness to being. Over the next few weeks, we're going to explore with one another what it means to find true rest. Not physical rest, but rest for your soul, soul rest. And the first message, I just want to lay the foundation. And we're going to look at why rest is important and what's happening in our society, our hearts at the moment, and how Jesus invites us to live at his pace, a rhythm of grace. End of September this year, 2025, de Raad voor de Volksgezondheid en Samenleving, the RVS, issued a report. And we have a picture of that report. Well, Great title, isn't it? Can you read it? No. It's op de rem, voorbij de nerveuze samenleving. Hitting the brakes beyond the hyper-nervous society. The RVS, I'll call it in English, the Council for Public Health and Society, is an independent advisory body to the Dutch government and Parliament as well, on matters of health, care and social well-being. And the Council studies social trends that affect the mental and physical health of people and provides strategic advice to promote a healthy and cohesive society. That's their assignment, that's what they need to do. And they come out with this report, Hitting the Brakes. And it describes how the Netherlands has evolved into a culture of constant pressure, acceleration, and performance anxiety. And their conclusion has almost a prophetic tone. We are not all sick, but we live in a society that makes us sick. Wow. So, why are we talking about it here as a church, as believers? Because we feel it's important, if you look around you, that whatever happens in society eventually becomes a discussion here or lands here in church. It affects what's going on here. If people everywhere are restless, overworked, overwhelmed, we can be sure that many of us here are carrying the same exhaustion when they come to church. If they come to church. But at least, even if you don't, you carry it in your soul. And that's why we really sense that the Holy Spirit is inviting us to talk about this subject, to live in a different rhythm, a season to slow down, learning rest, let alone before the busy season of Christmas. So, before we're going to look into the problem itself, let's first listen to Jesus' invitation. The answer has already been spoken over an anxious world and anxious societies. Come to me, he says, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So let me explain what the report says, because it's interesting. Starting with the problem. They say the Netherlands is facing a mental health crisis. It's not just about individual weakness, stress, or lack of resilience. According to that council, there's something deeper going on. And that's what they call this hyper-nervous, overstimulated society. It's a culture that constantly pushes to go faster, to do more, and to perform better. And as a result, the mental health of our nation keeps getting worse. A few of their observations are nearly half of all Dutch citizens, so that's 9 million, experience mental health problems at some point in their lives. Depression, anxiety, burnout are rising, especially among young people and women. And the number of emergency admissions for self-harm or even suicide attempts among girls and young women rose by 50% in 10 years. Over 8% of employees, of workers, are on sick leave due to psychological complaints. And that used to be 5% in 2015. This isn't just a personal or a medical issue, it's a collective societal condition. Heartbreaking numbers, because they're really huge. And it's not just statistics. Every number is a person. There's people behind it, stories behind it, friends, families, maybe even ourselves. And if you look around, you can easily feel that tension in everyday life. Have you noticed, if you talk to someone and when you greet one another, we often say, hey, how are you? Well, I'm busy. Good. Busy. Yeah, I'm busy too. Yeah, okay, good. Druk, zeggen we in het Nederlands. Really? Ja, druk. Okay. I do. I'm guilty of that. Some days I feel the pressure to do more, to be everywhere, to keep up, even tired. My to-do list keeps growing. There's more and more to do. And we live in a culture where busyness has become a badge of honor almost. You have to be busy to belong. And when you slow down, you start feeling guilty. Even more than guilty. You might have FOMO, fear of missing out. There might be something that I'm not partaking in. I'm not part of that. But underneath, there's something deeper. It's a spiritual exhaustion. We live in a society where we constantly feel the need to perform. We need to get good grades in school. We need to build impressive careers in our work. Maintain a big social circle. You need to have many friends. Stay up to date with the news. Live healthy lives. Care for one another. Everything at the same time. So how do we describe the mental health of our nation right now? Because, to be honest, it's not looking that great. That's why the report is there. As said, half of the Dutch population is suffering from mental health problems at some point in their life. And there's at the moment more than 100,000 people on a waiting list for mental health care. There are more people in the system that can be treated. File. File for the mental health care. We have it right next door here, the GGZ. And behind the number, there's a whole world of pressure. Pressure in education, pressure in work, in healthcare, in relationships, in how we see ourselves. And you can see that in many areas of life. Let's look at education. From a young age, children already feel the pressure to perform. They are measured, they're compared, and they're told what kind of school or career will decide their future. And many of the kids, but also many of the parents, feel that if they don't make it to the highest level, like VWO or university, they somehow failed. It's not good enough. It's the culture where we live in. A world that says success is all about what you achieve. And if you don't make it, it's your fault. You didn't work hard enough. And that belief, that pressure, makes you sick. And that's where the report found most interesting. Because it's saying you shouldn't do more. The real changes begin when we do less, when we hit the brakes. Because it isn't something that policy or laws can fix. It requires a cultural shift, a change in how we live, and what we do, how we value rest, and how we see and look at one another. We'll go a little deeper, because there's three main drivers that make us hyper-nervous. But before we're going to go there, let's look at what Jesus says about rest. Because it helps to understand and to know why it matters. Why we, even as believers, often feel anxious and restless and exhausted. The world shapes us. And we need to know what we need freedom from. Again, those three forces that make our society hyper-nervous. The first one is everyone for themselves. I think we have it on the screen. Everyone for themselves, or institutionalized individualism. It's a fancy way of saying we've built a society where everyone has to manage life on their own. We're told, take control. Be independent. Organize your own care, your own income, your own happiness. You need to do it all yourself. It's a good intention to make people responsible for their own things, for their own happiness. But the result is a culture where people feel alone and carry everything. They need to do it all themselves. And where communities and churches once carried one another, as we see in Acts, for instance, now most people feel they have to figure out life by themselves. They have to figure it out all for themselves. And we've become a nation of individuals who are connected online, but very disconnected in body and spirit. I'm guilty. I have one of these. It tells me when I need to stand up, how long I slept, how many calories I burned. I know, not enough, sorry. It's like a tiny coach that helps me. but it also judges me. And the interesting thing is, it doesn't judge me. It just gives, tells me the temperature. It tells me I put in the standard. I'm measuring myself. And it helps me to set the goal every time a little bit higher. Underneath, spiritual disorientation. When self-reliance becomes an idol, we forget our dependence on God and our need for one another. But God tells us we were never meant to bear the full weight of our existence alone, emotionally, socially, spiritually. That's what we find in Genesis 2:18. It's not good for man to be alone. And in 1 Corinthians 12:27, we find we are members of one body. We belong to one another. Freedom without fellowship becomes fatigue. And we're free to do everything. So therefore, we are expected to manage everything ourselves. And that's why you then see, as a result, loneliness, shame, exhaustion at a record level. The second is always becoming never enough. It's a performance culture. In simple words, we live in a world that says you must always become better. At school, at work, at home, everything measured and compared. Not only perform, self-improve, self-manage, self-promote. How do you do better? And even rest has become something to optimize. You can always do better. If you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. Doesn't that sound familiar? I used to have bosses when I worked for the financial services industry, and they said, wow, we had a record year and it was all good. We're going to motivate you because next year we're going to do 10% more. Like, what? You had done everything, given everything, and it was every year more. The result is our identity becomes performance-based. We no longer work from a sense of worth. We're working for our worth. We don't rest because we're finished. We rest because we're finished off. We're so tired, we can no longer do. But if you read the gospel, it tells us a completely different story. It tells us in the Bible, it is vain for you to rise early and stay up late, for he gives his beloved sleep, in Psalm 127, verse 2. In God's kingdom, identity comes before productivity. We are loved before we perform. We serve out of rest, not out of exhaustion. And when we forget it, and we don't do it, burnout becomes not just a medical issue, it actually becomes a spiritual issue. Because we start to believe that we must earn what God has already given: grace, belonging, and purpose. So the question is not, how much can I do? But what am I becoming while I'm doing it? And then the third one, always faster. And the faster we go, the less we arrive. Speed. The belief that faster is better. Technology promises to save us so much time. But every time we save a minute, we tend to fill it. Emails, WhatsApp, all notifications. The world never stops, and neither do we. If you look at pictures of 100 years ago, there were no washing machines. People washed their clothes by hand. What did we do when we had a washing machine? We didn't sit on a chair next to it, started reading the Bible or a book. We started doing other things. When Thomas Edison and others invented light, the light bulb, we put the light bulb in. We extended our productivity in the day with quite a few hours. It was brilliant. Less sleep, more work. Me? Yeah, I'm guilty. I like things fast. Online check-ins, digital tools, quick replies. We can do another one. After dinner, when I've filled up the dishwasher, when it's running, I think I can answer a few more messages. And I will, and I do. I think I'm not the only one that watches the news and at the same time has a screen on my lap and I'm answering or posting something or doing something. We can multitask. And then, what did he say? Because you can't multitask. But it's like we live with a chronic sense of unfinishedness. There is always more. There's always more on your to-do list. But one thing, rest, that feels so unproductive. Silence, that's such a waste. Let's not do that. We need to keep going. But God, He designed us with a rhythm. Day, night, work, Sabbath, sound, silence. And when you lose the rhythm, you lose the peace. And we see the effects everywhere. Rising anxiety, sleeplessness, shorter attention spans. We're below the goldfish level at the moment. People can have an attention span of about 9 seconds. And that's the standard measuring here. Yes, the goldfish has 9 seconds. Fewer deep conversations, less prayer, less presence. And we've traded kairos for chronos. Kairos is the sacred time. It's the meaningful moment. That's the translation of it. Chronos is the endless clock, the industrialized revolution that we're all part of. The result, we are really efficient. But my God, we're empty. Really empty. Connected with one another, but not close. Busy and bored at the same time. There's always something new that I need to see. So the report, I've summarized like 100 pages, but it says individualism, performance, and speed. And they're killing us, really. And it shapes our society and our culture. So we have a society that's economically efficient, but emotionally exhausted. Hence the waiting lines. Now the report has a brilliant solution. They say, we recommend that we collectively slow down, break, op de rem, and calls for a cultural shift. Move from personal resilience to shared responsibility and advises society should slow down, reform systems that glorify speed, rebuild the community, and redefine success by well-being and purpose, not performance. Well, that's easy. That's solved. It really sounds like a government agency. They see the thing, but what are we going to do? And in the end, and if you look at the end of the report and you look at the website, you actually see we are open for suggestions because they don't know what to do next. What they say is just change education, change how we work, change what we do. Easier said than done. That doesn't work. And if you don't believe me, just remember the elections that have been going on and how we see eye to eye on issues if we want to make some changes in this country. It is really difficult. Now, as a church and as Christians, we need to acknowledge we're not immune for what's happening. We suffer of the same thing. We carry the same phone, the same calendar, the same expectations. We're part of that. We work in the world. So it matters for us just as well. But there is a better way. And where the society and the world says, do more, become more, and go faster, Jesus says, come to me, and I will give you rest. So if you move forward from this, de Raad van Volksgezondheid en Samenleving says, our nation needs that cultural shift, from speed to slow down. As a church, we say, we don't need just a cultural shift, we need a spiritual renewal. So what can we do? As a church, as Christians, so you slow down. Don't stop, but prevent from crashing. Hit the brakes earlier while you still can, before you crash in to the one before you. So we need to learn a rhythm of grace. The rhythm of grace is the pace of Jesus. Slow enough to listen, gentle enough to love, and steady enough to last. So let's start with him, what he did. And that's why we call it rest for your soul. Jesus, he had 3.5 years to change the world, to teach, to heal, to raise the dead, to build a team of disciples that would carry his mission and would be willing to die for it. And his mission should be carried to the ends of the earth. No email, no e-bike, no WhatsApp, just building in these guys. No dishwasher, no smartphone, nothing to speed him up. Yes, he was busy, but if you read in the Gospels, he was never in a hurry. How did he do that? He lived purposely and purposeful, but never frankly. And this is what he does. In Mark 1:35 we find, and he went away to a solitary place and prayed. In Luke 5 we find, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. He withdrew from the crowds, and he's always able, if you read the story of Lazarus, he delayed his arrivals. He walked instead of running around or being rushed. But he's not only doing it himself, he also taught his disciples. If you look at Mark 6, you find the next verse. Then, because of so many people were coming and going that they did not even have a chance to eat, he said to them, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. Many people that wanted to talk to him, so much to do, such a long list of things to do. Let's go and find a place of rest, that rhythm. He never confused urgency with importance. And about that kairos, he says in John 7:6, my time has not yet come. And that's not the time that we find on the clock. It's his meaningful moment of what he needs to do. Kairos. So the pace of Jesus. For us, the discipleship means following in the footsteps of Jesus, not running in his footsteps. We cannot do that. We can't walk in step with the Spirit if we're running ahead of him. We need to follow him. We need to be with him. And to follow Jesus, when we say that, and when we started this year with that series, we actually say we move at his pace. Slow enough to listen, attentive enough to love. Because Jesus didn't just teach about rest, he embodied it. And that's what he taught us all. The text that we just read from Matthew 11, 28, 29, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. So I think I'm going to send the lady who asked van de Raad van de Volksgezondheid just this text. There is a solution. You don't need to keep running. Jesus offered it 2,000 years ago. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. He says, take my yoke upon you. That means walk beside me. Learn my rhythm, match my pace. If you're under a yoke, you cannot walk in another pace. You need to follow him as he did. And when we do that, we start, on the one hand, following Jesus, but also becoming like Jesus and live as Jesus lived, because you have to go where he went. And that's a rhythm of rest. What Jesus modeled, by the way, wasn't new. It's not something that he came up with. Well, I think he did come up with it, but it's much earlier in the Bible. It begins right at creation. If you look at Genesis 2, verse 2, it says, by the seventh day, God finished his work and he rested. Before there are any commandments, before sin entered the world, there was already a rhythm. God didn't rest because he was tired, but because the work was complete. He built rest into the very fabric of existence. And rest was God's first gift to humanity, because Adam is just created. Adam's first full day on earth wasn't a day of work, it was a day of rest. Our story doesn't begin with work, it begins with worship. Rest is worship, and work flows from rest, not the other way around. We don't rest to be able to work, and that's a pitfall many of us fall in, that we get rested so Monday we can perform. No, it's the other way around. When Jesus came, he reclaimed what rest was and what it always meant to be. He says the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And then he also says the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. He's the one in control. Rest is not a rule to follow, it's a relationship to enjoy. It's not about stopping work, it's about returning to the one who finished the work. And we can be with him. So our rest is restored in Christ. In Jesus, the Sabbath moves from a day on the calendar to a condition of the heart. And that's what we need to realize, and that's what we need to take time for. He doesn't just offer us a break, he offers that new rhythm that you can follow. The world says, do more to become more. Jesus says, abide in me and you will bear much fruit. Abide, stand still, be with him, then you will bear much fruit. And that's what I call this kairos rest. Not just the absence of work, but the presence of meaning. When you live by God's time, rather than the world's clock, we can discover a deeper pace. Rest is made for you. Rest is not a weakness. It is worship, really. It's how we declare, God is God and I am not. I cannot do it without rest. And he showed us. He showed us how to take rest. So the invitation that we have for you, maybe the band can come up. As we move into the last month of the year, and for us in our family, Christmas season is always a busy season, and now with church, it's even more busy. But the pace of life will also be speeding up for you. So many things still to do this year. And we need to have that reminder now. Rest, hit the brakes. You don't need to go at breakneck speed. Our whole society is longing for this rest. Here in church, we already have the answer. The world is searching for. He has a name. His name is Jesus. He showed us, he taught us. Yet it's beyond what he says. It's not only his teaching, it's how he lived and what he does. And that's why we're beginning this journey together. Our extended series on practicing the way. In January, we're going to launch the Practicing the Way course. We'll have meetings on a Sunday. We'll have multiple home groups starting it on different moments. On Sunday here in church, we'll have potluck lunches and followed with small group discussions on how to do this, how to implement it, what did he actually do? Because you cannot just say, do like Jesus. You really need to have guidance. We need to do this together. And we'll be teaching on the topic of practicing the way, what it really means. The early followers of Jesus were actually called followers of the way. So it's the way you go, following Jesus in his footsteps. And there's many things that we did. Now we want to see, what did he really do? And how did he really do that? How did he live? So we go from knowledge to really being with him in the next year. And knowledge was this year, all the disciplines in following in his footsteps when we talked about that. And during the week, like I said, the other groups will meet. We already have groups meeting with it, on it, to have a deeper conversation and to go into community. And we'll look into the practice of the Sabbath. If you want to know more about it, or you want to see, well, I'm interested and I would like to get some of the materials, you can talk to Celia, who's in the back. Yeah, oh, Celia's going to stand up. There's Celia. Yay! Or talk to Geraldine. Everybody knows, I think, who Geraldine is. We've also, we are receiving training directly from the Practicing the Way, because it's something that came from the US. And their team will help us and will guide us and will train us additionally, so we can really set the right step. And we'll have several guest pastors, because we're not the only church that's doing this. Many churches are looking into it because many are recognizing how important it is to really be with him and follow what he did, following in the way that he showed us. We want to make a conscious choice, not to be driven by hurry. We want to be led by the Spirit going forward, not exhausted by effort because there's so much to do, but renewed by grace. And Jesus is not just our example, what he did, but he's also the one giving us rest. He is our rest. And as a garden, we want to be that place of rest, a place to recover, to be reconciled with one another, to invite others in, and to be redeemed. Redeemed as your salvation, but also redeemed from all that busyness, for everything you need to do. A place where we don't just work for God, but walk with God. Very important. And maybe today, some of us, as we begin on this series, need to take a stand. I don't want to keep running. I want to learn to be still and to sit with you. Next week, Geraldine will pick up this topic and explain more about rest. Let's say the prequel to practicing the way. Go a little bit deeper into the topic. But maybe you need already to confess that your pace has been too fast, that your heart has been racing even when your body stops, like that car that I told at the beginning. Maybe you've been very busy, serving, doing, striving, but your soul is weary. And this is our invitation. Come back to Jesus, to rest in his presence. That's what it's all about, to rediscover being before doing. Because the world does not need faster Christians. It needs rested Christians. Rested in grace, rested in God, rested in Christ. Before I close, I want to give two invitations. The first one, if you're here today, you don't know Jesus yet, or not personally, this invitation is for you. He's not calling you into a religion. He's not calling you into a religion or into a religion of performance. He's calling you into rest. He died and he rose again so that we could live freely from striving, from shame, from fear. We can come with him and be with him as we are. And when he says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened," that includes you, me, all of us. And today you can just say, "Lord, I come." And the second invite for all those who already follow him, but know that your soul has been restless. Maybe it's a good time to slow down. And maybe it's good to do that before Christmas and not after, because after we had the new year. And then we have New Year's resolutions and more that you need to do. Maybe not. Maybe this is the moment to slow down. To say, "Lord, teach me to walk in your rhythm again. Help me to stop running ahead of you. Follow in your pace. Show me what is the good thing to do." And in a few moments, we will sing with one another. We will sing "Hiding Under His Wings." And as we do, let the Holy Spirit talk to you. What is he saying to you? Are you immune? This report of what that council says doesn't apply to me. I got everything under control. I'm at rest. I'm with Jesus. And that's great. Then let's make sure that we teach others on how to do that. But you're invited to come forward to prayer there. To lay down hurry, to lay down burdens, to lay down anxiety. Maybe pray for healing. Simple to rest in his presence. And I'm guilty. I've been preaching to myself. As I prepared for all of this, I noticed that I'm one of the culprits. This report was for me. We've, as you know recently I stepped into full-time ministry and I stopped working 2 full-time jobs at the same time. It's not healthy. My body started telling me, like, you better stop that. Cannot be done. And I think the stress is coming out of all of that I had to do, or thought that I had to do. But I'm really saying all of this to myself. And I think there's a lot of value in it for you as well. We're in this together. So I'd love your prayers, but I think we all equally need prayers to do this in a better way, in an easier way, in a more relaxed way, in God's rhythm, in His rhythm of grace. So I pray that my heart, your heart may be strengthened, and that we can help one another as a church to truly live from rest and not from this hurried pace, like another thing on your to-do list. When we go to practicing the way, we're not putting you an extra burden on your list. It's like, how do you weave it in such a way that you actually start resting just like Jesus did. Let's just reflect during the song. And for all of you, just see what the Holy Spirit says to you.